When we think of millionaires or financially successful people, the first thing that comes to our mind is extravagance, life of excess, or things like glamour. For many years, I've had a keen interest to know how the rich and wealthy people of the world not only retain but also grow the money that they have, and I constantly like to dwell deeper into the subject. And one of the surprising things that emerged was that millionaires do very average everyday things to grow their wealth and assets. And I have some good news for you people, because as per the research and studies, most of the millionaires don't have very glamorous money habits. And that's good news for people like you and me, because we can actually take lessons from their lives and implement them in ours. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you 5 simple habits from the life of millionaires that a lot of us can learn and benefit from. Alright, so habit number 1. They establish a culture of saving from very early on in their lives. One of the first thumb rules of any successful entrepreneur is that they establish saving as a fundamental part of their life from very early on. In fact, most of them advise that right from our first paycheck itself, it's very important for us to get into the habit of saving. Even if it is 5 or 10%, and regardless of the amount that we are able to save, but it's more important for us to get into this habit early on in our lives and also have that context of mind that we are able to set aside a certain amount of money from our earnings or salaries and stick to this habit throughout the year. My research highlighted a very popular rule that millionaires and financial wizards across the world have implemented in their lives, and that is the 60-40 rule. It's basically a simple concept which tells us that only 60% of our income should be used towards expenses such as rent, water, electricity bills, entertainment, eating out, shopping, etc. And the rest 40% of course goes into our savings. But at the same time, don't beat yourself down if you're not able to save 40% to begin with. It could be anything, 10, 20%, and from there you can move up the ladder. Most millionaires have also shared that they weren't able to start with a 40% saving goal, but over time they ensured that their saving goals came as close as possible to 40%. Moving on to habit number 2, which is they lead frugal lives. 65% of the financially successful people actually lead a frugal life. Now, a lot of you may ask, what is a frugal life? So, a frugal life is a life that is not filled with excess. It's a life where you only have limited number of things that you truly and genuinely need. For example, do we really need a cupboard full of clothes at all times? Or can we actually do with few but good outfits that we can wear on multiple occasions? At the same time, do we really need an extravagant amount of other household items that keep lying around in the house and we tend to splurge our money on? Or can we do with few but good household items that last us a long time? But let me remind you that being frugal also does not mean that we constantly worry about spending our money. It's also important for us to spend our money on things that we really need and will give us long-term value. For example, the mobile phone and laptop that you buy should always be of the best quality that you can afford. Similarly, anything else that you need to ensure that your work is happening at a smooth pace should also be of high quality. Some of the other things that you can invest your money on are good quality shoes, belts, wallet, perfumes, skincare, because they tend to last longer and will give you better results. Being frugal does not mean being chindi, as we Indians call it. It just means being wise and investing your money in the right places that will give you long-term happiness and results, versus spending your money on something momentary, such as going to an expensive restaurant and having a lavish meal, or maybe going to an expensive bar and ordering rounds of drinks, which might give you moments worth of happiness, but in the long run will mean very little in your life. Okay, so moving to habit number 3, which is most successful people avoid lifestyle jumps. The next big financial learning that I had from reading about these people was that most of the millionaires and financially successful people avoid lifestyle jumps. Now, a lot of you may ask, what exactly is a lifestyle jump? A lifestyle jump is a jump that we like to take every time our income increases. Now, let's say we get a yearly appraisal of around 10 or 15%. Now, does that mean that our expenses also should rise by 15%? You won't be surprised to hear that most people tend to do that. And this is one of the biggest mistakes that financially successful people or millionaires warn us about. Just because our income grew by say 20%, does it mean that we shift to a 5 BHK from a 3 BHK? Or let's say we have some additional income coming in, does it mean that we go to a designer boutique and splurge all that money there? That is something we all need to think about. Most successful people advise that the additional income that we have coming in every year, which could be from your yearly appraisal or your business is doing better than before, should get added in our savings rather than getting spent. It's one of the biggest mistakes that people tend to make, and we all should be doing our best to avoid it. Alright, so moving to habit number 4, which is they automate their investments. Now this is one big financial advice that I learned from my research, is that we need to make our money grow even while we are asleep. Which means we as individuals need to identify diverse investment opportunities to invest our savings in. Don't get me wrong, savings is a great thing, but it's equally important for us to identify and correctly deploy our money so that it can do all the heavy lifting for us and earn us the interest that we want. Because if it is left on us, we are very likely to be using up that money or spending it on things that we don't need. And it is not our fault, because we are truly surrounded with so many options and avenues that we can spend our money on. Who doesn't like to go out with friends and dine out, or say go to a bar and grab a few drinks, or if not anything else, be at home and shop off Amazon. So there are so many places that we can actually end up spending our money. But on the other hand, say we automate our investments and savings in such a way that every month we set aside a certain amount towards a mutual fund, or say we give standing instructions to our bank to deduct 10,000 every month towards a PPF account. Then these steps would happen on their own without our intervention and will also accelerate our journey towards our saving goals. If the money is taken from our account on its own, it saves us hassle, additional effort, and also builds accountability. And this is by far one of the most fundamental habits of most millionaires. And habit number 5, which is also one of my favorites, is choose your friends wisely. Something that most successful people swear by is the fact that we need to be very selective and choose wisely who we spend our maximum time with. Now there's a very popular quote that I really love, and that says that you are the average of 5 people that you spend most of your time with. Most successful people make a conscious decision to surround themselves with driven, like-minded people who uplift them and also add value to the time they spend together. Which makes a lot of sense, because if you surround yourself with people who are constantly disrupting your positive vibe or sucking off that energy from you, and in the bargain have a negative impact on your mind, then chances are that you are going to succumb to it. You might have heard of the saying that birds of the same feather flock together. And this is no different, because if you spend time with people who like to waste a lot of money, go out, be brash about life in general, then chances are that you're likely to be doing the same. Whereas on the other hand, if you spend time with people who are making good financial decisions and people who are wise with their money, who deploy their assets and investments in such a way that they are able to grow year after year, and of course buy things that they actually and genuinely need, rather than buying things to impress upon other people, then you are also likely to be doing the same thing in your lives. If we associate ourselves with people who live and desire within their means, then it's highly probable that we will imbibe their good habits and they will imbibe ours. And of course, that's a win-win situation for both the friends. So it's extremely important that we choose our friends wisely. So these were the 5 most important things that I learned from my research on how millionaires and financially successful people build their money habits. These are very useful tips that we can also incorporate in our lives without having to make big lifestyle changes. I hope you guys found this video useful. If you did, give this a thumbs up. I will talk to you all in the next video very soon. Until then, this is Karthik signing off. Alright, had to come up to get some fresh air. This video was getting a little too long while recording, but I'll have to see in post. I'll edit it and try to make it as concise as possible. As you guys know, this is new kind of content, so I'm also learning along the way, figuring out a lot of things, how to go about the video. but I can definitely share one thing with you, that self-help, motivation, productivity, these are areas that have always interested me a lot, and I'm so glad that I'm able to make these videos finally, because I feel that not just me alone, but we are learning together, and what can be better than that. With that being said, this is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed watching it and took some positive inspirations from the points that I shared with you. And for those of you who are watching till here, big thumbs up. I'll talk to you all very soon.